Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. In this video, I want to talk to you about the one repetition maximum conversion table. Now, this is in Appendix A, but it's a good question because the student had asked, how do you read it? It's really simple, and I'll explain it to you. But first, I want to just kind of make sure we understand that before you do anything with this conversion table, go back to where the table has some relevancy, right? And that's back in chapter 12. And I'm going to take you right to the performance assessments page, which is on 400. And I want to read you something because, again, if you read through the textbook, and NASM has some really good information, pertinent information on this entire scenario of dealing with one rep max and the assessments that go along with it, and basically the estimation of this amount of weight you're going to use. So the question is how do you read the chart? Very, very simple. By the way, this chart in Appendix A starts on page 815, 16, 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Holy cow, it goes all the way because it goes up to like 1,000 pounds, and I'll explain it to you. Very simple and very unnecessary in the real world. Okay, there, I said it. I showed my hand already. It's not really that important, to be honest with you. And NASM will actually tell you that. So I want to take you back, though, to the context with which you would be using that if you're going to use it, particularly if you're dealing with athletes or individuals that are truly concerned about the amount of weight, which is like almost nobody or shouldn't be that big of a deal for the average person that you're training. So performance assessments are typically used, and I'm on page 400. Please just take a look at this with me. I want to make sure you understand that the context is really, really important. Performance assessments are typically used for clients looking to assess and improve athletic performance or specific fitness measures. Not even going to go any further on that. Okay. You got to make sure the assessments are safe. Basic performance assessments include the following. Again, there is context to dealing with this conversion table. And for the most part, NASM is going to give you two assessments. The bench press, that's technically the upper body assessment for strength, and a lower body assessment, which is the squat. So in general, you're really only using a conversion table, one rep max estimation conversion table for two exercises. By the way, I'm not going to do it for anybody unless they are athletes because I have no need to. It's just totally unnecessary. Why? Because you don't need to know somebody's max to make a determination on load. This is within the context of a certified personal trainer. When you're taking money from people and providing a service to them, certain things are simply unnecessary, and NASM actually tells you that. So good for NASM. Okay. They have the push-up test, which is not a loaded test. Bench press strength assessments loaded, right? So you can use the conversion. Squat strength assessment loaded, so you can use the assessment. Vertical jump unloaded, long jump unloaded. Everything else is unloaded, so it's just not necessary. So there's two strength assessments where this conversion table would have some relevance. Go to page 401, squat strength assessment. It's designed to estimate maximal strength and the one rep max for the squat exercise. Again, the idea is that you would be pretty much off your knocker to do a one rep max with an average detrained individual. Why would you even consider doing that? For the most part, there's only one type of athlete I would ever do one rep maxes. I wouldn't even do triples with 99% of any athlete I've ever dealt with over the years. If you've done different, okay. But a one rep max, one person, that is a competitive power lifter who literally has to show progress in a one rep max to compete. There's literally no other athlete, none, that needs to do it. Even triples are unnecessary. Going below 5 for for any athlete other than a power lifter or maybe an Olympic lifter, right? Snatch and clean and jerk, simply ridiculous. for the most part, because it has no relevance and the possibility for injury is significantly increased. So we use predictive measures, and that's all the conversion table is that it is a predictor. Instead of using maximal weight to get a 1 rep max, right? We have them use less weight and predict what their 1 rep max would be. This way, you're not putting on the maximal load where you have an increased risk for injury. So the ultimate goal here, if you want to do it, again, if you're going to do it, that's your business. I don't recommend it. But for bench press and squat, both are going to be very similar, in that you're going to have an individual use certain loads to perform the movements. And instead of having them go all the way to the max where they can only do 1, you're going to have them do a number of repetitions repetitions more than 1. So if a client can do 5 reps and they go, and on the 5th rep, that's it, boom, and they're done with that bench press assessment, you could literally say, wow, you did 5 reps with 100 pounds. Instead of going any heavier, let's sort of estimate what your max would be. That's the conversion table. Point is, I wanted to show you something else here that NASM is very important that they tell you this. Training tip, go to page 402. Here is the context. The squat and bench press strength assessments are not recommended for most clients seeking weight loss, which is 99.99% of most of your clients as a personal trainer. I'm not talking about your buddies in the gym. I'm not talking about your friends that are trying to, prove that they can squat 300 pounds. We're not talking about that. We're talking about from the context of a certified personal trainer. The average client that you're dealing with is interested in health and wellness and losing body fat. We're helping them to maintain lean body mass as well, or even increase lean body mass, but get the point. And so, for the most part, most clients seeking weight loss. So it's not recommended, it's unnecessary, or improvements in overall health. I hope this makes sense. This is the context. That's why, I always recommend you read these training tips on as you're going through the textbook. These assessments are typically reserved for clients seeking improvements in maximal strength. Sure, absolutely. Nothing wrong with that, such as strength and power athletes. Hey, that sounds familiar. Rewind back 30 seconds ago to what I just said. I've trained lots of athletes. And very seldom would I ever do anything related to maximal singles or triples or anything like that. That's just you're asking for trouble and injuries. But I've trained power lifters, and I've done Olympic lift training with track and field athletes. Those are scenarios where, yes, not often, but you will, in your periodization scheduling, have those points where you are trying to figure out maximal strength and maximal power output, but not for the average client. So improvements in overall health. These assessments are typically reserved for clients seeking improvements in maximal strength, such as strength power athletes, right? Football linemen, power lifters, Olympic weightlifters. Yay. Way to go, NASM. However, these assessments are not required for determining appropriate training loads, weight, during resistance training exercise for the average weight loss client or the average client. Ladies and gentlemen, the average client can barely do the exercise correctly. For most of your clients, they have never trained before. And if they have trained, they haven't trained long enough to develop the neuromuscular proprioceptive capabilities to even consider doing close to maximal loads. Who cares? Again, it's irrelevant. It's just not necessary. So with that context, by the way, read that training tip in there. They're dead on. They're absolutely correct. You can develop appropriate training loads with the average client anyway. You're not doing anything less than 10, 12, 15 repetitions for the average client. So why would you even be now, I know what you're saying, and I've heard it 1,000 times, but my client wants to know. Absolutely. Guess what? Now we can go over, how apropos that I can move you all into this now. So yes, there are clients, absolutely, that would like to be able to say, what would be the maximum amount of weight that I can bench press or squat? Now I can give you the answer because I've got a conversion table. Swing over into the appendix. To the 1 repetition maximum conversion, we have a X axis and a Y axis. The vertical, right? So the vertical down says pounds. It goes from 5 in increments of 5 pounds down, right, from top of the page to the bottom of the page. Page 815 goes from 5 pounds all the way to 120 pounds. You will notice that there is no specific exercise mentioned here. In other words, this conversion table is inaccurate, shall I say? Okay, and it's definitely not accurate throughout all exercises because there is no exercise noted. Apparently, this means any exercise I do. If this is the poundage that I'm using, I go across the x-axis or horizontally. If I'm able to perform these number of reps, then my max, if I'm estimating it, would be what you see then in the center. So follow me. Again, the vertical axis is the amount of weight that you're actually using for a particular exercise. Okay, let's pick an exercise just for the sake of argument. Bench press, right? So on the bench press, if I'm using this weight, and by the way, that's why you have all these pages because they're going in 5-pound increments all the way to 1,000 pounds. Okay, but we'll use the number. So vertical or y-axis is the pounds you're using on that particular exercise. We'll say the bench press. And the x-axis or horizontally across, right, at the very top. And that's in dark blue, by the way. So you have pounds on the way down and you have the total number of reps that were actually performed. They go from 10 reps all the way down to 2. So the way you read it is, follow with me, take your finger. If I'm, let's use an easy number. Go all the way down the page to where it says 100. Under the vertical axis in dark blue, you'll see it goes from 5 to 120. Let's stop at 100. That means that this exercise that I'm performing, and I'm going to use a bench press, if I am able to use 100 pounds, go across now, at the very top, I'm going to go across. If I am able to do 10 reps, you'll get that. So you got one finger here on the 10 rep, and I've got the weight of 100 pounds. If I can perform 100 pounds for 10 reps, the number that says 133 would be my predicted max. If instead of doing 10 reps with 100, I should be able to do 1 rep with 133 pounds. That's how you read the chart. Let's do another one. 50-pound bench press. I take 50 pounds, I put it on the bar, boom, and I'm able to knock out 4. Let's just say I go 2, 3, and then I go 4 reps, and I rack it. That's right, 50 pounds. But I can only do 4 reps. I go 50 pounds and I go all the way over to where it says 4 reps. Remember, I'm going horizontal. And what is the number? Right, 56 pounds. What is this conversion chart saying? It's saying that if I can perform 4 reps to failure, basically, with 50 pounds, then the predicted amount of weight that I could do for only 1 rep would be 56 pounds, and that's how this is read. Get it? Obviously, the problem here is that the more repetitions, the more I get closer and closer to 10 reps, the less accurate it is. Why? Because a maximal effort is generally involving type 2X, type 2, let's just say type 2 muscle fibers. Okay. And the type 2, but particularly the type 2X or the white fibers, are generally the highest threshold fibers that are going to be engaged maximally to deal with that heavy load. If I can do more than 1 rep, that means that the load is a little bit lighter, which means that I'm not technically, I'm not accessing maximally in the shortest period of time those muscle fibers that are designed for overall power and strength. There's a little bit of an endurance component to it, right? So 10 reps, to be able to push a certain amount of weight for 10 reps, ergo means that I'm only going to be able to access, or generally only access, muscle fiber typing according to the scales that we understand for power and endurance. Okay. Is it really way off? No, but if you're going to find a 1 rep max and a true 1 rep max, then do a true 1 rep max. Okay. Because that's going to be the ideal environmental conditions, i.e., the amount of load that you're using. Anything less is going to, by default, involve even minute, fewer muscle fiber involvement with the type 2X fibers, which means you're going to get some more type 2A fiber, maybe some type 1, depends on the person and their level of detraining or fitness. And so this conversion chart is fairly accurate if you're over on the 2 reps, maybe 3 reps, possibly even 4 reps. I don't know. But by the time you get to 8 reps, 9 reps, 10 reps, the endurance component, even though it's minor, means that the load was not heavy enough to immediately engage as many type 2, particularly type 2X fibers, as you could have if you had an increased load. So again, the conversion table, that's how you read it. If I can, well, let's look at it. It goes up to 1,000 pounds. If I can squat 1,000 pounds for 10 reps, I'd be making a lot of money because I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be competing in the strongest man competition. 1,000 pounds at 10 reps, guess what my max squat would be? Or predicted would be 1,333 pounds. Now, if that same 1,000 pounds, I was only able to do 2 reps, 1, and then 2 reps, my max would then be 1,053. Get the idea? Wholly inaccurate in that sense. Close enough, or as we used to say in the Army, good enough for government work. It'll get you close. The idea is that if anybody can put 1,000 pounds on their back, is it really that important to begin with? I hope this makes sense. The conversion table is a predictive table. It's a prediction. The more reps you're able to do with a certain amount of weight, the more repetitions, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10 reps, the less accurate your conversion is going to be, because by default, there are multiple types of muscle fibers that are involved with being able to do only 1 rep, only 3 reps, or only 10 reps. And because of that, there is going to be some differences in what the true 1 rep max would be. But again, context. We don't do 1 rep maxes with people. We're not interested. We would only use something like this if I have a client that says to me, well, come on, Doug, can I do just 1 to try the bench press? I just want to see how much I can, and trust me, I've had that 1,000 times if I've had it once, especially with younger clients, guys, right? That really want to, and the answer is no. No, you can do it somewhere else, but not with me. I mean, I'll do 6 or 7 reps with you. And if you want to do that, then I have a conversion table that'll give you a pretty good estimation. But because you're using 150 pounds on your bench press, or 135 pounds, and you've been getting 8 reps, 9 reps, 10 reps with 135 pounds, guess what I can do now? Now I can use this conversion table. 135 pounds. My boy is doing 135 for 6 reps, and he's crushing it. And then he gets 7 or 8 reps. I can go, look, 135 pounds, you did it for 8 reps, 169. You probably could max about 170, 175. Does that sound good? Yeah. We're not going to do it, by the way, because it's unnecessary, number one, especially for hypertrophy. I mean, it's just not a necessary repetition range to begin with. So that's right off the bat, unnecessary. And the chance of injury is significantly increased. Therefore, as a professional, I am not even going to negotiate with you whether or not we do it. We don't do it. Therein lies the benefit of using the conversion table. I hope that makes sense. I think it's fairly easy to read, right? Weight, actual reps accomplished. That's what those numbers 10 all the way down to 2. 10, 9, 8, 7, all the way down to 2 reps. That's the actual number that you accomplished. This is the question I always get. Well, what about dumbbell curls? Okay, what about dumbbell curls? First off, are you really interested in knowing your max on a dumbbell curl? Okay, here it is. You do dumbbell curls with 20 pounds for 10 reps. Well, you could probably do 1 rep with 27 pounds. I don't have 27-pound dumbbells. You see how a lot of this becomes irrelevant, I hope. Okay, a lot of this is irrelevant for the real world when you step in and start training people. There's nothing wrong with having kind of a conversion chart like this and giving some quick information. Yeah, but by the way, I'll be honest with you. If somebody can do a bench press with 150 pounds and do it 10 times, you should automatically be able to tell them you could probably get in the 180 range, maybe even 190, 185, 190. That should be an automatic. I don't need a conversion chart to tell me that if somebody's able to do 5 reps, 10 reps, 15 reps with a certain amount of weight, generally I can kind of get a range for where your quote 1 rep max would be without having to do it. Please don't do 1 reps. Don't do triples. Don't even do 5. I'm not sure why you're doing that unless there's a very specific athletic performance-based reason. And NASM actually talks about that. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comment box by putting the word understand or appreciate it. Or if you don't agree with it, please go ahead and throw that in there as well. If you are interested in more topics similar to this in the NASM textbook, please go ahead and let us know. Remember to subscribe to the channel. As always, have a great week. We will see you next week.